Bonjour mes frères et mes sœurs. Comment allez-vous ce matin? I'm thinking today about my 30th birthday, which was just a few years ago. And I was still in college working on my master's. And I was married, and I'm working full time, and I'm turning 30. And when you're 29, turning 30 is like gazing into your own tomb. It's just, for whatever reason, it's a dark time. It's like my life is now over, and I shall mourn for the rest of my days, which thankfully won't be very many. Don't know what it is about 30, but it's traumatic. So I decided with my college friend Dwayne, the infamous womanizer Dwayne, that we were going to go down to New Orleans. Neither of us had been there before. And we were going to drive down from Wisconsin, which is a 21-hour drive, by the way. But, two drivers, it's eminently doable. And we were going to go down during spring break, which always happens to fall during St. Patrick's Day week. And it's also my birthday. So we decide that's what we're going to do. And we're not going to make any hotel reservations. We're just going to go down and work on our tan. We're just going to go somewhere and, because we really are ignorant, we think we're going to go lay on the beach. There are no beaches in Louisiana except for some rocky, nasty ones. But anyway, in our heads, this was like the ideal thing. So I have, consent from the wife, as we say in Indiana, the wife. And everything is cool. And 2 days before, Dwayne calls me to say he cannot make it because he's working as a pilot for a national airline, and he's been on call, and he has to make some flights over the next few days, and he will not be able to go. And I'm so devastated. So I'm just like, well, you know what? F it. I'm just going to go by myself. It'll be fine. So I'm leaving Wisconsin, and it is straight up 10 degrees in mid-March, and it's a freak snowstorm, and it's howling, and I'm putting gas in my car thinking, get me out of here. And so I drove all that way, and I get down to New Orleans, and I am driving around. Now, mind you, I have like a 15 or 20-year-old car besides, right? So it's not the smartest thing I've ever done. But everything is fine, and I get there safely, and I'm looking for inexpensive motels to stay at because, it was going to be 2 people paying for this, and now it's all on me. So I take the exit into the Vieux Carré, and I realize, dang, I don't think I can afford to stay in the quarter, so I'm going to go out into the suburbs a little bit and get a little cheaper rate, right? So I drive out toward Metairie, and in a little place called Kenner, I noticed that there is this motel with a big sign that says $29.95 a night. And I'm like, sold. That is my place. So I get off that exit, and I figure out how to get there. And so I walk into the lobby, and there is probably without an exaggeration, one of the most singularly unattractive women I've ever seen. Weathered, leathery skin, overly tanned, big pores, hair that's been over processed a gazillion times, and it's all teased out into this frizzy like afro thing. And she's got long fingernails, but is clearly a smoker because they're stained yellow from the nicotine. And she's got a deep, raspy smoker voice and the whole thing. And she took me under her wing. She was the nicest person ever. And when she realized that I was by myself in a big city, in in an aging Dodge, she was like, okay, here are the places that you have to go. You must go down Canal Street, and you must go to Marie Laveau's grave. Marie Laveau was an infamous voodoo queen back in the 1800s, right? So of course I did that. Of course I bought some red lipstick and I made my red X on the tomb, because that's what you do, what you used to do. Do not go there now. Do not go there. It is not safe. People are murdered in there all the time. But this was a few years ago. So I did that. She introduced me to the River Road, the driving tour, so I could see all of these antebellum houses that had survived the devastation of the Civil War. The cemetery at Metairie is fabulous. You must go to see this thing. As creepy as that sounds, there are the most amazing monuments and structures built in this endless park of a cemetery. Absolutely amazing. She also introduced me to food I hadn't had before, like po' boys and gumbo and oysters on the half shell. Remember, I didn't have much money. I was a college student and married with children. So resources were pretty tight. And it just so happened that within walking distance of my motel, there was an oyster bar where you could get a dozen of oysters for $2 a dozen, which was crazy cheap even back then. And they were big fat oysters too, not like these little anemic things you get up here in Yankee land. $2 a dozen. I ate those oysters every damn day I was down there. A $5 New Orleans style buffet, which was just down the road in Kenner. Food is extremely inexpensive there once you get away from the quarter. Don's Seafood Hut in Metairie. Amazing, amazing food. And probably my favorite and most memorable is a little French patisserie called Chez Pierre. And all of these amazing little tulipes and other little, some croissants, some pain au chocolat, all of these things, that I knew as French pastries. Delicious and wonderful. And by the way, all of these directions and this advice was in French, because she spoke Cajun French. And although it was a little different on my ear, she explained to me that there were 13 different dialects of French in the New Orleans area. She also gave me the history of the Cajun people, which I really was ignorant of. I just knew that Cajun food was a thing. Blackened redfish was a thing. I didn't know the history. I didn't know all of the discrimination and hatred. And she told me, quand j'étais petite fille, she'd say, when I was a little girl, it was forbidden to speak French in school and around anyone who was not Cajun. You were punished. People were expelled from school. People were beaten in school for speaking the French language. I learned a whole hell of a lot in that week that I was down there. But it took me 3 whole days of talking to her and getting her advice and, having her draw me little maps. This is before smartphones, mind you. Before I realized, damn, old girl has some big old hands. And old girl has an Adam's apple. And suddenly, it clicked. This is a man dressed as a woman. Now, mind you, I had just gotten into a down-low relationship with my boss, another married man. And so I was already struggling with my sexuality and wondering how all that was going to play out and blah, blah, blah. And I realized that here might be someone to actually talk some of this through with. And so we became really good friends. So other things that I learned from Henri was the whole history of the drag queen business down in New Orleans from the 1950s on. Henri was probably mid-60s at that point. Had pictures of the gowns that she had made and explained to me that there were no real clubs anymore like it used to be with an actual orchestra where the drag queen actually had to sing and not just, move lips to watermelon, watermelon, watermelon because they were too drunk and or high to remember what the lyrics to their songs were. It was a fascinating, educational, and very healing week for me. And Henri and I have been friends ever since. Yeah, we don't talk much. We don't talk often. Henri is now late 80s, still living in the house that he was raised in with his parents, survived Katrina. He's met my wife. He's gotten to know my kids. He knew my first husband. The moral is that if you had told me when I was 29 going on 30 that there was a drag queen in New Orleans waiting to meet me and be my friend, I don't think I would have gone there. I think at that point in my life, I was judging by appearances too much. Straight up. I'm not proud to say that. And I wonder sometimes if, for as inclusive as I try to be and want to be and need to be, if there aren't still some shades of judgment in there. Do I judge by appearances? I think I do still a little bit. I can usually catch myself, I think. But this is something human beings struggle with. Judging by the appearance of someone. Hearing something about someone and then having a whole list of prejudged beliefs about that person. It really is not good. It's not being our better selves, for sure. In the Hebrew scriptures, 1 Samuel, chapter 16, speaking about the prophet Samuel and how he was called and how he's just, he's not a big jock. He's not the muscular dude on the playground. He's just a puny little whelp. and the verse I'm thinking about reminds people that God does not see things the way you and I see them. Because we get lost on the external appearance of stuff and people. But God on the other hand, looks beyond all of that superficial shit and sees to the very heart. The heart. I have been thankful my whole life that for my 30th birthday, my eyes were opened up in a profound way. And I found one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever known. So today, maybe we should all take a little pause and consider, observe ourselves today. Are we judging people by their appearance? Are we discounting people as being somehow less than us because of what they're wearing or what religion they are, what language they speak, how many tattoos they have, how many piercings they have? And what could this world look like if we just put all that aside and tried to see things as God sees them? Let's pray. Good morning, God. Thank you for bringing us through another night and giving us an opportunity of living for you. Forgive us for all the times we have diminished other people by our beliefs and prejudices, and help us today to find a way to see things as you see them, to accept all of our sisters and brothers exactly as they are, exactly the way we ourselves want to be accepted. Watch over all of those, loving God, who are lost in their hatred and prejudices. Heal their hearts, open their eyes, fill their hearts with a measure of your love. We ask all these things in the name of our brother, the one who was himself judged, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Have a good Thursday et laissez les bons temps rouler.